All right, well, welcome everyone to Capturing Real Estate Agent Buyer Attention in High Performance Homes. Before we get started, I want to say a huge thanks to one of our top tier sponsors here at the Green Home Institute. Help your clients stay healthy with humidity control, temperature control, and air purity. Water efficient humidification is a win for health and water conservation. Energy efficient dehumidification pairs with right-sized heat pumps can keep air feeling a lot cool, and you can have higher set points. MERV 13 filtration captures particulates of growing concerns such as airborne viruses, PM 2.5 from wildfires, VOCs, dust, and more. And also radon is a #1 concern. It's the second cause of lung cancer after smoking. Paired with smoking, it's a 1-2 punch. We have tested homes in EPA identified zones as low, and we have found radon to come back off the charts, so don't trust those things. Make sure you install an Aprilaire radon system on your next build or retrofit as well. So you can learn more about all the healthy home options and radon over at appraiser-led.com. And on that note, thanks to our second tier sponsor, Sun Radon, they're helping people monitor radon to determine if a system like Aprilaire is needed. One of the other cool things that they're looking at is potential mold risk. So a lot of times you put these down into the basement, it's going to give you that humidity, it's going to give you that temperature, it's going to get you that dew point, which gives you a mold risk. Plus, it's looking at radon and helping you and your clients stay healthier. For all you home inspectors and raters out there, this is a great device you can take out into the field and make sure you're getting proper radon readings to, again, help people make informed decisions and stay healthy. So it's Sun Radon. Check them out. All right, well, welcome to Capturing Real Estate Agent Buyer Attention in High Performance Homes. This session is brought to you by the Green Home Institute. The Green Home Institute is a nonprofit with a mission to empower people to make healthier and more sustainable choices in the construction of the places we live. Today, I will be your moderator. My name is Brett Little. I am the education manager here, and we have a very small but mighty team. Our executive director, Jose Reyna, on the left there, and our new program manager, Eliza, who's managing our green certification programs. As always, this course is approved for multiple continuing education units, including all 5 pillars of green and our certified green home professional. AIA LU only on this one, which may make it applicable to your state-based design or contractor license. And we've got the official Marketplace certification for all you realtors out there looking to get your CEUs. So with that, I'm super excited to hand it off to our speakers here today, Brett and Pamela. Now, this is not their first time on the show. Pamela, perhaps this is your 3rd time on the show. So we're really excited to have you back, and always excited to be working with Elevate. We work with Elevate in many ways locally as well here in West Michigan, and such a great organization to be working with. I'll let Pamela describe who they are. And then Brett here, who's been probably the 2nd time on the show and also been helping us locally for a very long time in regards to our Green Home Reality Task Force. So Brett, I'll hand it over to you quick to introduce yourself, and then we'll hand it to Pamela and we'll get going. So welcome, everyone.
Thanks, Brett. So double Bretting it up. My name is Brett Vredevoog, and I am a residential realtor with Berkshire Hathaway here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I focus on helping eco-conscious homeowners increase energy efficiency and at the same time maximize their home equity. And love the Green Home Institute and what they're doing. Brett has given me the privilege to introduce the first speaker, someone who I've met maybe 2 years ago and just really, really enjoy working with. And she's with a great firm that's helped me out over the last couple of years to try to navigate the residential real estate space with energy efficiency and kind of how it all links up. And so without further ado, I am going to introduce Pamela Brookstein.
Thank you. Actually, Brett, I think we have known each other for much longer than that.
It does feel like that.
Yeah. I think it's 4 or 5 years. But
and anyway. 5 more years with the pandemic too. So
yeah, I lost that.
So this is and I'll introduce myself in a second, and thanks to both Bretts. And I am really excited to be on this webinar today. I don't know, let's say maybe last year I was listening to the radio and I heard this interview with an economist, and the economist said that there are stated preferences and there are revealed preferences. And what I find is most of the data out there about what home buyers, home sellers are thinking about has to do with stated preference. And that's like something that you would say in a survey or in an interview. And I will tell you that when I fill out surveys, I am often my very best self. I eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. I run an 8-minute mile. I'm just generally a better human. So we have to take what buyers say with a little bit of a grain of salt. And I'll talk about that a little bit today. So yes, I am with Elevate. We are based in the city of Chicago, but we work all over the country, and we design and implement energy efficiency programs and really whole home health programs to help people save money and to live in environments where the air quality is cleaner and they're just more comfortable. I specifically manage the Value for High Performing Homes campaign. In that role, I get to do the most fun things. I have written a couple classes for real estate agents, continuing education classes. I get to teach those all over, mainly in the Midwest, but I'm headed to Virginia in a couple weeks. And I get to do a lot of consumer research, and that's what I'll be talking about today. We have 3 papers out. You can see that the big one that's highlighted is the Grand Rapids paper. And I'll be sharing some insights that we got from again, stated preference with interviews and surveys and things like that. So it's not perfect, but it's a start to gathering some data. Here's the spoiler alert. You can, I suppose, turn off if you want to. Here's the big picture. What stakeholders across the board are saying is that they want third-party certification plus marketing materials that call out the full range of benefits of high performance, which means they don't just want to know that it's using less energy. They don't want to just know that maybe it'll save them some money. They want to know that some of these things are probably more durable, some of these upgrades. They want to know, they would like it to be called out that something is better for the environment. Well, almost everyone says they would never prioritize buying anything, because it was better for the environment. It's something that they would like to know. But that's the full range of benefits that we're talking about. They also liked third-party certification. People are really wary anymore of people making claims without a third party backing up that claim is real. Real estate agents are saying, we like third-party certification and marketing materials that have already been created mainly because of liability concerns. They are telling us that they don't want to make claims about the high performance of anything. And in fact, I just got back from a week in St. Louis where we ran another set of focus groups with 2 groups with homeowners and 2 groups with real estate agents. Hopefully by June, we'll have a paper all about that. But this liability issue came up again. They also can only know so much about so many things. And they really liked the help when we test marketed some pre-made marketing materials about high performance. And I'll talk more about the appraisers later as well, but basically they are saying we need the whole story laid out for us, as much data, as much supporting documentation as you can share so that we can give the value that you are asking for. Let's start with home buyers. This is some stated preference. And when I go to conferences, these numbers are bandied about on a regular basis. Basically, it says that everyone wants energy efficient. They They say that utility costs are important. They say they would pay more for homes that were energy efficient. And that's great, except in focus groups, when we're really talking to people, this is what they're saying. The houses that really attracted me had a nice kitchen. I would not have paid more for something that was marketed as energy efficient. And I really like this quote. This was what we call a veteran home buyer, someone who's lived in multiple homes. She's been around the block. And she said, low energy bills are nice, but I want a home that's well maintained. So this is very interesting. Again, stated preference. Is there good news? There is, because we have revealed preference. And that's where an appraiser has gone out and done a very, very local study, looking at comparable homes, not across these states, but in discrete neighborhoods. And that's very important. When I teach, real estate agents are incredibly wary of any research that I put in front of them. And I have to walk through that these are appraiser-led studies done in small neighborhoods. Appraisers are pulling comps, they're looking at photos to make sure that these homes are being compared like to like, except for one home has the energy efficiency upgrades and one home doesn't. And Brett V will talk about later one of the studies that is out of Grand Rapids that is showing a premium, which is really exciting. But again, revealed preference. So we do know that homeowners are paying extra, around 3 to 5% for a home that's energy efficient or high performing. However, that only happens when the home is marketed properly. When I teach, I talk about this extensively. What does that mean? But essentially, it is making sure to pull out those benefits. People want to know the benefits. They want to know, it's interesting, in St. Louis, people were telling us, older buyers were saying, well, we should know what the CEUS rating is. And I said, do you know what a good CEUS rating is as opposed to a not good one? And everyone said no, but they wanted to know it anyway, which was very, very interesting. But they did also need that full range of benefits. Also, we asked the question that I ask in every group, which is, does anyone know who oversees Energy Star? Nobody does. Nobody. I'm at 70 people right now in the focus groups who have no idea, and yet they know it's a good thing. So they trust Energy Star, they know it's a good thing, but they have no idea where it's from. So this is all very interesting and a little discouraging when I'm out there. I'm going to talk about an exercise that we did with focus groups in Chicago. We had 2 groups of people who said they were going to be buying homes in the next couple of years. And we had 2 groups of real estate agents that were based in Chicago. And one of the things that I always tell real estate agents when I'm teaching is I understand that people are not coming in and saying, I would like you to find a green home for me. And I have to say this up front when I'm teaching, because otherwise I get no credibility in front of the class. In fact, when I ask people at the beginning if they have any questions, any comments, someone will usually say something like, nobody's asking you for green. And I say, of course they're not. They're asking you for different benefits in a different way. And this is a way to have conversations that other agents aren't having. We talked about in St. Louis, gray walls and white kitchen cabinets and open floor plans quite a bit. It turns out that we're slowly moving away from that. I guess on the coasts, it's already there that we've moved into warmer colors, and eventually those will get here too. So these things change, but comfort and well-maintained and durability, you all know, do not change. Here's the exercise that we did. We gave everyone a list of these features, and we told the homeowners to rank them in order of preference and interest when they went to go look for their new homes. We asked real estate agents to rank them for their buyers. Then we gave everyone that same list, but we talked about those features in terms of benefits. So for instance, open floor plan was something like, it gives you flexible living space, and patio deck provides an opportunity for more outdoor living, things like that. And here's an example with attic insulation. The feature, attic insulation, the benefit, this home has consistent temperature from room to room, no matter the season, so that it's comfortable, which is a real thing in the Midwest. It's not maybe as much in climates that are more mild, but it is super real for people who live here. Here's what happened. Attic insulation ranking by homeowners, it was 6th out of 7th as a feature. On the benefit side, it went up to 3rd. And what's interesting is that everything moved up. All of the energy efficiency upgrades moved up. You can see what happened to heat pump. Like, it went from last to 2nd. So these were actually fairly startling. I didn't expect that much movement just by talking about benefits. And St. Louis seems to have come out a little bit differently. Open floor plan was in St. Louis was still important for everybody. Here's what came out really, again, like something that was really interesting to us. And that's the homeowners, when showed the benefits, really changed the order of their list. They moved all of the energy efficiency upgrades up, whereas agents stayed the exact same. That list that you see right there, that is exactly the order that they had when we showed them features. We did something fun in St. Louis. Again, I'm really excited about this paper that will come out eventually once I write it. We asked real estate agents to rank for themselves. So for their buyers and also for themselves, what would they prioritize? And they, on average, they prioritized the energy efficiency upgrades for themselves and said that their buyers wouldn't, which, again, fascinating. We need to go back and listen to the transcripts and really dig into what exactly happened during those conversations. But that'll be a really interesting data point. Here's why I think that partly the benefits end up being so important to the conversation. And that's because people make decisions emotionally and then justify them rationally. It is what we do. Home buying is emotional. It's all based on feeling. I don't know if anyone has bought a home recently, but it's so stressful, and it feels so personal. And well, I mean, it is personal, and it's such a big expense. I mean, it just, the Harvard Business School professor found that 95% of our purchase decisions take place subconsciously. So what we have to do for people with this marketing of high performance benefits is give them that emotional justification, talking about health and safety and how you're going to feel in the home. One of the outcomes that we had in Chicago and Grand Rapids, when we asked people how they want their home to feel, they said they want it to feel welcoming. But like, really, that came out quite a bit, welcoming. And if we can tie to the fact that a home that's really cold in the winter and warm and humid in the summer is not welcoming, then I think we've hit a good sweet spot if we can get people to change their feelings about a home based on comfort level. This was kind of fun. These are just Homeowner expectations of agents. This is after we taught them what the benefits were for high performing features. So this is at the end. They've learned all about if what a heat pump does for you. And here's what we heard. I would think a real estate agent would only benefit from being able to articulate some of this information. I think agents should know about high performing benefits. It's a huge selling point. Do you think your house is better than that house? That statement's really funny because it's come up a couple times now. People saying, oh, my house is going to be better than somebody else's home because we're a very competitive people. And whether you're a seller or a buyer, this is pertinent information that would possibly help and possibly influence the decision. I'd like to just unpack that statement a little bit. What people said, and what they said it in St. Louis, they've said it in Grand Rapids and in Chicago, is that this is all things being equal. Location is always going to be first. Location, the cost of the home, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. What I am trying to work on is how do we make sure that a home that is high performing is consistently valued for more. So we aren't going to get someone to move to a neighborhood they don't want to move to because the home is high performing. They are never going to give up a school district. And I think that's really important to remember. We are talking about moving people once they are in a home to making upgrades and making sure that these homes are properly valued at the time of sale. So these statements are from these emailed surveys that we did through realtor associations in Minnesota, Illinois, and Michigan. And real estate agents were really asking for help. Third-party certificate. So these are in the comment sections. I didn't ask questions. These at the end, we said, put in any comments that you have. So these are all comments that people threw in. Third-party certification is important for liability concerns. I would love to learn more about the features and how to market them. I would love to know more. I have a hard time confidently directing clients because I just don't know what is available. This is really important. The consumer doesn't know the meaning behind terms such as HERS. We just test marketed that in St. Louis with a certification that they have there. It has the R value and the HERS rating and lots of other numbers. It has SEER and AFUE. And consumers just circled those things. Homeowners circled those things and said, I just don't know what this is and what it means to me. And then when we showed them marketing materials that called out the benefits, that's when they got excited about these upgrades. The appraiser conversation comes up constantly. It's something that people go to immediately. And I will tell you that real estate agents also go to this topic immediately. What they tell me is, well, maybe people are willing to pay more for this, and maybe I will list the house and do all of the things right so that the benefits stand out, but the appraiser will never give me value. And I'm going to show you what some appraisers said about that. If you read the paper that we put out, which was an appraiser-led analysis in 3 different states, we did the same thing. We sent out a survey to appraisers through the statewide appraisal chapters. And we asked, are you more likely to analyze green features if you're provided a third-party certification? 70% said yes. That's incredible to me. It shows that they need this data. Now, again, this is stated, no idea what they're really going to do in real life. But this was stated that they would take into consideration that extra part of the story that's being told about the home. But here is your field preference. And that's, we have appraisers who have gone out, looked at the selling price of homes that had third-party certifications that were marketed as having those third-party certifications, because that is key. If a home is third-party certified, but it is not marketed, it is though it is not third-party certified. All of that value is lost. The full story about that home was not told. But appraisers are telling us that other appraisers across the country are giving value for these homes. And there's a whole bunch of papers out there. Again, Brett will be talking about one of them in a little bit. And again, when I'm talking to real estate agents, I only talk about appraiser-led research, because those big data sets just don't lend any credence. They're not believable for people who are real estate agents. In fact, people in St. Louis, and this happens everywhere, but I was surprised at how much it happened in St. Louis. People kept telling me, we're different. We're different than any place else. And I think that most people feel that way. And I do think that that's somewhat true. We found that buyers in St. Louis were much more interested in an open floor plan than buyers in Chicago. It still came up really high, just to be clear, but there was a definite difference. But real estate agents do want to see local, very, very local data. All right, so what were appraisers telling us in the Midwest? Same thing from these surveys that we sent out, and then we had a comment section at the end, and this is what people told us. They are not marketed properly to sell at a premium. The issue we have is finding comparable sales, which I do know is a huge problem, and one that I'm working on through Elevate, in trying to make sure that our MLSs have the appropriate data fields to put this data into. The problem is, if the home is not marketed correctly with benefits, and the data is in the MLS, but the home buyer doesn't know about that data, they may not pay more for that home. So it really does start with the real estate agent marketing those upgrades correctly, then listing it in the home, or listing it in the MLS correctly. There seems to be more desire for these studies, but data is scant and difficult to prove added value. I've used some national studies to support adjustments. This is a very, very good appraiser, because that is something that an appraiser can do. Most appraisers don't know that that's something they can do. They don't know that those studies are out there. So this is someone who's working really at a high level, but they are out there. And if you just talk to groups of real estate agents, like I do in class, you would think that there's no reasonable appraiser out there on the face of the earth. And we just know that isn't true. This is the conclusion that I've come to so far. Again, wait for this new paper about St. Louis. But really, it seems like third-party certification is key. I did just teach in Iowa City, and they said the same thing around third-party certification and marketing materials. So this definitely is something that's rising to the top. Agents like third-party certification. Home buyers are saying that they like it. And we know that in the appraisal, it's helpful as well. And then this idea that we need to help real estate agents so that they don't have to come up with their own marketing materials. It's complicated to list a home on the market, and there's a lot of emotion from the seller, and there's a lot of pressure to do things right and to get things done. And Brett is a rock star real estate agent. He's doing these things, but we need to help the ones that aren't at the rock star phase yet do what I would say is the right thing, so that we get the increased value at the time of sale. that's me. I love for people to get in touch with me and ask questions. I'm always happy to help. One of the great things about working at Elevate is that there are 200 of us, and almost everyone has some advanced degree in some crazy field. I sit next to, or I used to sit next to, solar engineers, contractors in high performance. So I'm able to talk to a whole group of people about high performance that I wouldn't be able to if I were just on my own. So I'm always happy to try to find answers for people.
Well, thank you so much, Pamela. There's a good question that came in, which is a perfect segue into what Brett's going to talk about. But before we get to him, the question was, what kind of national appraisal studies are you aware of? I'm pretty sure we've had you all on the show in regards to that in the past. Now, the handout I just sent you all does have the one Brett's going to be referencing that is national. But is there anything else besides that national Pearl study that you've seen out there?
Yeah, these are the ones. I mean, we're not drowning in them, that's for sure. I'm always looking for funds to try to do more of these studies. The one that Elevate did, which is that first one listed, Realizing the Value, we actually thought this would just be a baseline study, that we would go into a couple different places in the Midwest. We would pull data from the MLS, and we would find that there was no way to come up with a high performing home premium. For the most part, that is true. However, in Minneapolis, we did have, or not we, but the appraiser who did the study in Minneapolis did find the beginnings of a really good story and found a premium. Again, it's hard because you have to find homes that are properly marketed in the MLS. And again, we just figured in Chicago, we wouldn't be able to do that. So we have the beginnings of a good story in Minneapolis. There's a case study in the paper about a home right outside Chicago. And we asked the appraiser to pull comps and do some things. That home was Pearl certified, sold before things went absolutely insane with the market. And that home sold for a large premium. And the appraiser, like I said, we had an appraiser pull comps and make sure that all panned out. That's an N of 1 though. So it's not a great story to tell. That second, I think it's the paper that Brett will be talking about. There were pretty robust sample sizes pulled in Phoenix and somewhere, I think Charlottesville, somewhere in Northern Virginia. But these are most of the papers that are out there done by appraisers.
Yeah. Another question that came up was this liability piece. And especially I'm thinking mostly for the realtor side, I'm asking this, but it could apply to appraisers too. So it's always assumed that, in my personal experience with realtors, that there's liability in talking about these things if you don't know. But could the reverse be true as well? That there's liability in not talking about healthy home things? Somebody buys something and a realtor was unaware of energy burden or health issues that could be coming from that house. I mean, could the reverse be true? Have you had any conversations like that?
This is my fantasy scenario. No, nothing like that has happened. I have often said that if I had all the money in the world, I would just be a test case person out there, and I would get real estate agents who didn't market my home to the best of its ability. And then I would go to court because I would have so much money and time. Yes, the reverse is theoretically possible, but the seller would have to know that if the home was improved, the seller would have to know those things. On the buying side, and Brett can probably talk way more about this, but if if the buyer didn't ask
Hmm.
what the energy bills were,
Mhm.
you know, there's a lot of wiggle room there. What I do think, and what I keep kind of hoping will happen, is that but I think we're a long ways away from here, is that an appraiser will unfairly value a home on the energy efficiency side, and again, they get taken to task.
Mm.
But I think we're a ways away from that.
Right. And then just as a clarification here, if you can think off the top of your head, someone was curious if that 5% premium is across all price points, or if you know just in general on those studies, if it was looking at some specific price points. Like in their case, they were saying somewhere between 200,000 versus a $100 million home, for example.
You can probably see that in
the studies.
Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't really jump out to you whether it was big, expensive homes or cheaper homes or anything.
No, it doesn't. And I'm sorry, but that is, just so you know, that is something that I'm working on at Elevate. Trying to make sure actually that homes that are located in neighborhoods that are historically not appraised fairly, that when we know that home has energy efficiency upgrades, that we get that called into the real estate transaction. So I'm working on a project right now and with a brokerage to make sure that happens.
Great. Well, Brett, if you are on the line with us, why don't you jump in, and then I will share your study, and then we'll get into some more formal questions before we wrap up.
Sure. Yeah. So unfortunately, I only have one slide. You don't have to put it on yet, or you can, but I was just going to start. Thank you, Pamela. I mean, literally what I'm going to talk about is some justification of all of that stuff that you just talked about on, like, in the local Grand Rapids real estate market that I've experienced over the years. And so there's going to be some repeating of stuff, but I think it should be helpful. Just as a quick background of how I got into this, I previous to being a realtor, I was a builder, and I worked for several sustainable contractors. And so we were building with cutting edge materials. We were building Energy Star rated houses, staggered stud framing, Duracell blocks, like all this cool stuff. And that's where I was introduced to energy efficiency and green in residential homes. And I thought it was so cool. And when I became a realtor, I quickly realized that there's a gap to be bridged between trying to showcase this stuff and sell it as a real benefit. And so that's what I've been trying to take on over the last probably 6 or 7 years, shifting my business into the green real estate, into the high performing home market, and trying to prove to the players involved, the lenders, appraisers, buyers, sellers, that there is true value in that. So that's where I came from. I am a little bit of a environmentalist. I was shocked when I heard that 30% of all greenhouse gases come from us as humans trying to be comfortable in our houses. And then we live here close to the 45th parallel, as Pamela mentioned. Like, we need to condition our houses in order to keep our water lines from freezing and us from dying in the summer. And so there's a real need for conditioning our houses, and the more energy efficient we can be in our residential lives, the better it's going to be for the environment. And so there came the issue of, like, how do I link energy efficiency with residential real estate? And I kind of was doing this on my own for a while, and I stumbled across Brett, which was awesome, because I was like, holy cow, I can't believe that there's the Green Home Institute is right here in Grand Rapids. Amazing. But the statistic that I stumbled upon was the NAR statistic that was brought up earlier, where it says nationwide, there's a proven premium that buyers are willing to pay for an energy efficient, energy certified, healthy home. And that's 5 to 7%. And as a realtor, as a listing agent, you owe it to your client to get as much money for them as possible, and as much equity out of their house as possible. And so I feel like it's our duty as realtors to try to focus on showing these hidden aspects, a lot of times hidden aspects of these houses, and proving value to all the players involved. But without proper marketing and without proper documentation on the MLS, that's where we run into a big standstill with this whole thing. And I'll get to that in a little bit. In 2019, I made a pledge that I was going to energy certify all of my listings that year, or at least all the listings that I deemed appropriate to list as energy efficient. So I'd walk into a house at a listing presentation and immediately start looking for those things, like, okay, they replaced their windows. They downstairs, I can see, I don't even have to check. I can see they've got PVC exhaust on their furnace. That's a high efficiency furnace. Ask some questions. Have you added insulation? And then I'm like, okay, well, here we go. This could be an energy certified house. And I would bring in a third party. I started with Pearl. That's who I ran into first on this journey. Well, actually second on this journey after we formed the Green Valuation Committee with Green Home Institute. And so I'd bring in a Pearl certified energy auditor, third party. They come in, they take down all the assets of the house, high efficiency mechanicals, insulated rim joist, the amount of the house that's conditioned space, attic insulation, R value. Then they do a blower door test. So they were seeing air exchanges per hour. Fairly extensive research. It's not the most extensive, but then it spits out this beautiful little pamphlet that's dumbed down enough that is understandable by buyers and by sellers and by appraisers and by lenders. And so display this at the listing. And what I found is that people were really intrigued by this, all people involved. A recent example is I have a condo listed right now that is Pearl certified gold. I put it on the listing on the MLS. It of course shows up on all the auxiliary websites, and I'll hold it open and people come in and be like, oh, I have my certification right there. And they're like, we saw this on Zillow, and what does this mean? And it gives me the opportunity to say, I had a third party contractor come through and check out this house, and they've deemed that it has, several energy efficient aspects that make it more healthy and more efficient than the competition around here. And also it shows that it was a really well-built house, and well-maintained, and the people did good things to this house. And buyers like that. They like to see that a house is well-maintained. Gives them comfort. And sometimes I would hope that when they come away from a listing that is energy certified, that's going to stick in their head a little bit. They're going to say, well, that one was energy certified, and there was somebody who actually looked at it. It wasn't just words on a paper. I found that sellers really like this too. In the case that I went to a house last year that was all electric, it had geothermal heat pump. It had a heat pump water heater. This guy was very geeked out about his energy efficiency, but he was scared that most people wouldn't understand it. And I looked at that and said, hey, this is great. And we can market this, and we can show that this is actually a real savings, and it causes for a healthier environment in your house. And we're going to market that. And that listing conversation went from, if we choose you to represent us in the sale of our house, to right after that conversation, we are going to have you represent us in selling our house. because they liked that I gave value to that, and I was going to focus on that to try to bring more value to their listing. And then lenders and appraisers, that's something we're still working on, but there is the green appraisal addendum, and that is kind of a new addendum that puts down what the value should be of these high performing features of a house. And you can present it to an appraiser, and as long as an appraiser is trained in using that addendum to add value to a house, they should be able to use that to add value to your appraised value, which is a huge thing for us right now, especially in that market we just came out of, where everything was going for $50,000 over asking. It's like, how do we reach that crazy valuation and get it to appraise? It's the only thing that I've really found that can give a true boost, that doesn't offend an appraiser. But and I know that they do say like, oh, bring us comps and stuff like that, but it's like, I don't think, anytime I brought comps to an appraiser, it does not feel warm and fuzzy. And then I was going to comment a little bit about the statistic of 70% of appraisers want to give value to energy efficiency. And I think that's awesome. But I also think it's the very first thing that Pamela talked about, that you want to be your best person when you're taking a survey. I think they want to do that, but I think we've struggled with that. And I know Brett has a personal experience with struggling, and I have several experiences over the last year struggling with appealing an appraisal on energy efficiency alone. And that's where what Pamela talked about too is like getting data on the MLS. That's what we need to do, because an appraiser is always going to ask, that's great, this place is energy efficient, but can you prove to me locally that a buyer was willing to pay a premium for a house over a house that wasn't energy certified? And without that data on the MLS, it's very difficult to get an appraiser to budge on the appraisal value that they gave to it the first round. And that's why we would love you to stick around for the 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock Green Valuation Committee kickoff, because we need some people locally to put together these education events so that we can get the word out that it's really easy to do, and we have the resources to help you with that. But something that we did get done in 2020, which was awesome, is we got an appraiser-led case study done right here in Grand Rapids. It was in a neighborhood in Rockford. And it actually came about kind of weird. I was putting together a neighborhood mailer that I was going to send out to this whole neighborhood that said, hey, over the last year, here's the 12 houses that were sold, and then highlighted, here's the 3 houses that I had listed. And I was 7%, I got a 7% premium. And when I saw that, I was like, wait a second. That's the NAR statistic, and those were energy certified houses. And so I brought that up to Pearl. I brought that up to Pamela, and with their resources, they put together this case study. And sure enough, we had a local appraiser look at it and definitely confirmed that there was a 5 to 7% premium that happened right here in the Grand Rapids area. And so that was very cool. And it is on my website. I run a website called ecoequityrealestate.com or greenhomesgr.com. They go to the same place, where I have energy certified houses that you can search for, and houses with alternative energy sources. And I have the case study right on there. So if you want to go check that out, I'm sure it'll be in the link here. But that is, oh yeah, there it is. There's the case study right there. So that's pretty much my spiel, and happy to answer any questions or go over anything in more detail if you'd like.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Brett. And yeah, we've still got some time here to stick around for questions for the formal session. I wanted to, I guess, as we're waiting for some specific questions to come in, wanted to add in my own, as you pointed out, journey with this. I've, in the West Michigan area, I've been able to take 2 existing homes and get them green certified, cut their energy use significantly, improve them. And in both cases, I was able to eke out, additional appraisal value above what the market would have bared, 2% on the first home, and then 3% on the second. So, and in both cases, had I not eked that out, I wouldn't have been able to complete my project or fully complete it, because that additional value actually gave me more borrowing power to get the funds I needed to complete the project. So it is a bit of a chicken or the egg issue, right? Like, you actually need to tell the appraiser, this is what I'm going to do, give me more value if you're using the traditional mortgage pathway or non-traditional mortgage pathway to fund your project. So I'm not talking about selling, but I'm actually talking about using that money, that equity, when you own the house or when you're buying it, to borrow more money to pay for the green improvement. So on the first home, it was like cut the energy efficiency in half, got a Green Star certification, and did some healthy things, and put it into the feature. And I had to cycle through different appraisers until I finally found one who was willing to at least commit to taking a look. That's all I needed, right? I just needed them to say, you know what, I'll consider this. I didn't need them to guarantee it, because I don't think that's legal, right? They couldn't guarantee an update, an added value, because the rest of them just said, no, I don't know what you're talking about, right? And so this was back in 2012, I did this. And so finally found one. They're like, I'll consider it, gave them all the information. They're like, all right, I'm giving you a 2% bump above what I would have done with this house had I not known about these features. So that was helpful. And then fast forward, I sold that home in right when the market started swinging up in 2016, and apparently it hasn't looked back still. But and at the time, when I sold the home, it was like it sold within a second above asking price. And so I was like, oh, this is sad, right? Because I want to be able to get that extra green value out of it. And so I couldn't get any extra value out of that, but the home buyer ended up needing to have a conversation with me, and they're like, look, we really appreciate all this information and what you did. So it was really cool to have that being said, even though I couldn't get value at that time. Fast forward, to the home I'm in now. Again, we refinanced the mortgage, and again, we needed that bump in value. And so again, we had to sort of find an appraiser who would play ball, right? They would, work with our lender to find someone who was willing to look into it. Thankfully, we found someone. And at the end of the day, out of all the things we did to this house, certifications, home energy score of 10, heat pumps, ventilation systems, water conservation, everything. At the end of the day, there were only 3 magic things that gave me a 3% value bump on it. And that was the appraiser seeing that it was Pearl Platinum certified home that had solar, and that because there were multiple other homes within the area, comps, right, that sold that had solar. And then he did some magic formula that he told me involved the price of oil and gold. And I will not be able to tell you what any of that means, but that's what he told me. He showed me the formula, and he said, we'll use this magic gold oil formula with Pearl, with solar, with comps, and all the stars aligned, and we'll give you 3% value. That was it. All those stars had to align. And that was my personal crazy experience. And so, so anyway, I just wanted to kind of share that with you all. That's where we're at. We have a lot of work to do, together to, make these, make these kinds of things happen, I think. So, so I just wanted to, again, we're coming up at the end of our time here, and I'm still not seeing any specific questions. So I do want to thank our speakers for this, and just remind those of you who are here live today that right immediately as this wraps up, we will close the recording out, and then we will invite everyone who's from the realty industry in West Michigan, lender, appraiser, home inspector, realtor, of course. And if you feel you're in the industry, hey, we'll accept you. But hang out with us. We're going to keep having a conversation. We're going to let you turn your cameras on, unmute, and introduce yourself. And we want to kickstart this new group. Again, as always, these sessions are, this session is recorded. It'll be posted on our YouTube channel. You can subscribe and you can share it, rewatch it, you name it. For those of you watching this in the future, not right now, but on demand, go ahead and take that quiz with an 80% passing rate and you will receive your continuing ed. For those of you here live today, as long as you've been here the entire time and you're appropriately logged into Zoom, you will receive your certificate from certs@gutenbergcerts.com. Mark that as safe. Take the survey and you can get that. And also, again, we always have to say a huge thanks to our board of directors, our volunteers, our executive director, Jose, Reina, and all of our top tier sponsors who allow us to do what we do. Mitsubishi, Ream, and April Air. Super thankful for them. So I'm just checking to see what other questions there were. I think that's not Q&A. Here's Q&A. So a question came in, how does mortgage or home equity loans work if looking to it to combine with federal, state, or local green grants and credits? Both are for residential homes that are personally lived in and homes one owns and rentals. Pamela, I don't know if you want to, if any of that is something you look into or what, but
It isn't. That's, yeah, for somebody else, definitely.
Okay. We will and do have sessions on mortgages and home equity. So please join us as we do our financing sessions, and we'll get into that. There is a lot of commentary in the comments here. And one of the, I think the biggest talking points here is this Green MLS group that exists out there. So certainly anyone who's interested in seeing their MLS get green, Pamela, it sounds like you all are working on that. There's this other additional group that's happening. And I know MLSs, for better or for worse, are hyper local. So you can't change it from the top down, is my understanding. Though, Pamela, isn't there a national group that certifies MLSs that then require these MLSs to comply? Or am I just dreaming this up?
It's required.
Yeah.
So the other thing is that no MLS has to have a certain data field. Like an MLS doesn't have to have data fields for energy efficiency and solar. They don't have to. If they do, what they are supposed to do, encouraged to do, is standardize those data fields so that every MLS has the same way of capturing the data. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean it's happening. Yeah. And there really is there's no stick. There's no big baseball bat to make sure that an MLS does the thing.
Fair enough. Well, it is now 1 o'clock. So as far as the live portion of the session goes, we're going to wrap it up. So Pamela, Brett, it was good to see you again. Thanks for coming back on the show, and maybe we'll get you back on for the next report, or at least would love to share it out with all of our group. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Brett.
Be sure to check out all of our courses available online that you can watch anytime and anywhere to pick up your CEUs. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube to get weekly updates and stay up to date on green building science courses, webinars, and home tours. Thanks again.